Another doctor soon to be back in UK hospital wards is the Nigerian accident and emergency physician Hadzia Bawagarba. Just a couple weeks ago, Bawagarba successfully overturned a decision to strike her from the medical register following her role of the death of a 6-year-old boy with Down syndrome. Jack Adcock had been admitted to the hospital with sickness and diarrhea. After an initial examination, he was treated, but his condition continued to deteriorate. It subsequently emerged that he had been suffering from pneumonia. He went into septic shock, which led to organ failure and a heart attack. They gave him the wrong treatment, and this is the consequence of it. And he was pronounced dead within hours of his arrival. In reviewing the case, the medical tribunal found a series of errors committed by Bawagarba, a fact that led to her receiving a criminal conviction and a 24-month suspended sentence for gross negligence manslaughter. She killed someone and gets a 24-month suspended sentence for it. The General Medical Council subsequently moved to have her permanently struck off the medical register, but was frustrated in its efforts by an appeal court which ruled days ago that Dr. Bawagarba is a competent and useful doctor, even though she killed someone through giving them the wrong treatment for pneumonia. Couldn't recognize pneumonia, gave them the wrong treatment, kid ended up dead. And she represents no material continuing to danger the public and can provide considerable useful future service to society. Bullshit. She can't contribute anything that's useful. She's already caused more problems than she's worth. She's killed someone from negligence. There's no telling what other kinds of negligence have been going under the radar, but I'm not going to speculate about that. Part 3. Drug abuse, fraud, and violence. Third world doctors have also proven highly problematic in relation to access to drugs. Indian Hemith Karla Kamath was struck off the medical register after it was discovered that he had stolen 16 ampoules of drug midazolam, a hypnotic sedation drug, while working for Royal Wolverhampton Hospital's NHS Trust in the anaesthetics department. Meanwhile, Zimbabwean oncology doctor Chirifasarfi Mateuta was struck off the register after it emerged he had a history of stealing prescription drugs for personal use, as well as there being concerns raised about his clinical assessment, diagnosis knowledge, and behavior. Questions should also be raised about the assessment and verification of qualifications purportedly held by immigrant doctors. In July, 41-year-old family doctor Kashif Samin was struck off the medical register after it was discovered his curriculum vitae boasted 46 years of medical experience, meaning the miraculous Mr. Samin was practicing medicine 5 years before his birth. Samin also claimed to be a fellow of the American Association of Aesthetic Surgeons when he was not, and he claimed he'd had an article published on the Journal of Gastrointestinology, but no evidence was found that it existed, and it was deemed entirely fictitious. So these third world doctors are making claims about their credentials that are false, but people are afraid to look into them because Westerners are trying so hard to be accepting of these exceptional third world doctors. Oh, look at them. They're such wonderful examples of how the West can benefit from the third world. We're bringing in these doctors. No, still shit tier, still liars. We're not even checking their credentials. We should be exceptionally critical of the qualifications that they claim to have, and we should check their backgrounds to make sure that they are competent and that they are not going to cause harm. Because as we've seen with these examples, lots of harm is being caused because we're not investigating into the credentials of these people, and we're too afraid to kick them the fuck out when they decapitate babies. Patterns of aggression also continue to be observed amongst immigrant medical staff. Last week, Turkish eye doctor Erkan Mutlukan was struck off the medical register after complaints were raised about his conduct at a Scottish hospital. Mutlukan appears to have expected this result and has already relocated to the United States, where he is recorded as operating an ophthalmology clinic in Wilbraham, Massachusetts. Just to make that clear, this guy is not allowed to practice medicine anymore in Scotland. He's found out to be a shitty doctor, and instead of having any kind of punishment imposed on him, no, he just goes off to the United States and continues to be a shitty doctor, now in Massachusetts. A medical tribunal found that Mutlukan had demonstrated a sustained and repeated pattern of appalling behavior, including stamping on a colleague's dictaphone, calling black agency staff apes and primates, and branding elderly patients time wasters. In a decision unlikely to comfort the citizens of Wilbraham, the Medical Practitioners Tribunal Service concluded that Mutlakan posed a potential danger to his patients. Again, in Wilbraham, Massachusetts, this guy is practicing as an eye doctor at the time of this recording. He is not removed from being able to practice despite all this. In conclusion, the Western reliance on and need for foreign doctors is largely delusional. We need surplus doctors only to the extent that we possess surplus populations. One of the problems of the contemporary West is not only that we have lost sight of our past, but also, and perhaps more importantly, that we have lost sight of our future. There is almost no sensible planning for the future or coordinated education of our youth. We live in an age where the supposed cure for every socioeconomic problem is the injection of more diversity, rather than producing more children and educating them according to the needs of the present and future. The belief that importing workers is a panacea to economic pressures was always built on false foundations. The classic example is the nation bemoaning a lack of plumbers and builders, which then imports cohorts of foreign plumbers and builders who then need many more homes to live in, requiring more plumbers and builders to construct them, and so on. Similarly, in contemporary Britain, massive pressures on National Health Service caused by mass immigration are being eased by the mass immigration of dubiously trained foreign doctors. The only result of this development is the rapid decline in the quality of service offered by the NHS, the increased danger faced by patients, and the further expansion of multiculturalism into all areas of life. The only sensible solution to this chaos is to conclusively bring the multicultural project to an end, to repatriate the surplus populations and eject those whose dubious skills are no longer required. If we hope to make any progress at all in this respect, we will need to see an end to the cultural denunciation that singled out Peter Duffy, and we will need to turn the tables on traitors sending anonymous letters about racism and consigning their countrymen to a fate worthy of despair. If you'd like to read more articles like this, I'll have the link down below. Again, this was from unz.com, unz.com, and I highly recommend you take a read of their site. Thank you for listening. That is the end of this episode, this first episode of The Falling Tower, and I hope to come back with more articles and opinions and more discussions to make the various corners of the internet and nuggets of information more accessible through an audio format. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the future. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and that will help me to make more content in the future. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next.